Hey everybody, it's Yakov again, representing yakobees.com, the bar and grill, where the only thing we sell is dirty vodka martinis and we keep the waitresses in cages. It's almost feeding time. I have on screen before you the new t-shirt design I've worked on, Agora, at the left hand of God. See how far I can get with this stupid shit. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's got on the front the Agori Vimalananda. We have the text on the back, and I have a stylized skull from one of the books. You know, it's also notable that it is the first Yakov store yoga mat. And now it's a very expensive yoga mat, mind you. It's like $53 or some shit. Hey, complain to them. Now, I make $9 on it. Let me know if you don't think that's fair. If it's too much for me to ask to make $9 on one of these transactions. I chose $9 specifically because it keeps the t-shirts at $19.99, not over $20, because $20 is the most I would ever spend on a t-shirt. That's fair, right? Freefall says, love the Agora 316, but kind of wish you were reading Stranger in a Strange Land. We got Professor Volts in the chat. Been a while, indeed it has. Stranger in a Strange Land, I don't know what that is. Let me find out right now. I'm on that coffee vibe. I don't normally drink caffeine. A little shaky. There we go. Robert A. Heinlein. The story of Valentine Michael Smith, a human who comes to Earth in early adulthood after being born on the planet Mars and raised by Martians, and explores his interaction with and eventual transformation of Terran culture. Sounds cool. I would definitely check it out. I've actually gotten a lot of requests, and I don't know. We'll see how that goes. See if anything's the right length. There will be times for me to stop reading Agora, like now, and just take a break and read something else. So now this is going to be good because it's only going to be one session, be one and done. I've wanted to do it for a long time. What was the other recommendation I got? It was man, I gotta pull this shit up. It's important, you see. Robert Anton Wilson's reality tunnels concept. So, I guess he was just talking about the concept itself, which sounds cool, but I always felt like I would have to read some of Robert Anton Wilson's actual literature to get a handle on any of that. And there's like a lot of it. I feel like there's like a trilogy I have to read. One day I'll do that. Nice ear washing for Medicare shit. Medicare was... I'm glad he's back, but the guy running the deepfake has run out of funny material. It was kind of boring. I don't know. Alright, where was I? Talked about the t-shirt, talked about nonsense. How about this? I'll review my most recent fucking Fediverse post. Tornado watch in fucking New Jersey. They'll say anything to make boomers panic. It's true. Whatever. Where was I? Let's get on to this shit. Let's talk about the Yeti. And let's talk about some shamans. And this is the most interesting thing, I think, about what I'm about to read, is how it kind of loops into Missing 411 territory, or maybe even Fae territory, which is what everybody wants to hear, right? So I'm going to be reading The Calling, The Yeti, and the Jhakri, Forest Shaman, in Nepalese Shamanism, by Larry G. Peters from Westwood, California. I don't know if that's where he's from, or if that's where, like, the university that he wrote this is for. What was this for? 1997, Transpersonal Institute. That's weird. Transpersonal Psychology. Yeah, the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology. From 1997, so it's pretty old. I don't know when the first Missing 411 book came out. I'm kind of interested in that. When did David Paulides start lying to everybody? Come on, wiki. Wiki. God damn it. It really doesn't have a wiki? Amazon. It must have a wiki. I'm just dumb as shit. What was the first book? Western United States and Canada? That sounds right. Yeah, that's the right one. Fucking... What year is it? Okay, 2012. Yeah, alright. So... That's why this is so significant to me, because it clues me in on some topics about the Missing 411 stuff and the Fae stuff, and this was 1997. Yeah, so if you're interested in that stuff, you might find some clues that might help push this forward. I don't think any conclusions are going to be made, but there's just little tidbits that I think can help fuel this whole thing. Is that a Ben Suri playing in the background? I don't know, man, but it's royalty free. I don't fucking know. Okay, I think I'm ready to do this. Yeah, everything's good. The Jhakri, jungle or forest shaman of the Himalayas, is a spirit, a god of the shamans, and a creature said to be partially human. They are sort of gnome, Yoda-type figures, tricksters, and shamanic teachers or initiators. The Jhakri is the Nepali name given to the small Yeti, 3 to 5 feet tall, whose red or golden hair covers his entire body except for his face and hands. According to legend, Jhakri live in forests and caves and kidnap young candidates, typically between 7 and 20 years of age, to initiate into shamanism. Only those youths who are chokho, pure, in body and heart, are retained for teaching, ideally for 30 days, before being returned to the place from which they were initially abducted. Candidates with physical scars or impure hearts are released quickly, often violently thrown from the Jhakri's cave, or worse, captured by his big and ferocious wife, the Jhakrini, who desires to cannibalize the young initiate. So, now, immediately, you have kidnappings from these gnome-type creatures. You have Bigfoot kind of wrapped up in there. I think it's interesting that the youths who are impure are violently and quickly thrown from the cave or from whatever they were taken into. You find that in the Missing 411 stuff that they're like beaten up, but they were released and they don't really remember what the hell happened. And I don't know if I have to explain Missing 411 shit. It's just people going missing in, like, national parks or in, like, the wilderness. And it's usually tied in with Bigfoot stories. The focus of this paper is the intimate connection between the shaman's calling in Nepal and those liminal figures of the ancient forests, jungles, mountains, and caves known as the Yeti and the Jhakri. These anomalous characters have an overlapping cultural mythology. They are indigenously believed to be spirits, but also current living vestiges of the ancient past, with a physical appearance and presence, who also manifest in dream and trance states. Thus, they coexist in two realities, which interpenetrate and are not separated in Nepali consciousness. Like the Yeti, there is extensive oral mythology on the Jhakri. I'd like to say in this paragraph, so you get the idea of maybe, existing in two different dimensions. So that's what a lot of people say the Fae are doing, and maybe Bigfoot or the Yeti or whatever is just an animal from that same plane. I don't know. Like the Yeti, there is extensive oral mythology on the Jhakri, but there is not the same level of public interest, and therefore no literature of which I am aware devoted exclusively to the Jhakri. However, a few interesting descriptions of Jhakri initiatory encounters are given in Hitchcock and Jones, from the Limbu from the Limbu, from shamans living in the Kalimpong area near the Nepal-Indian border, and the Solokhumbu Sherpa. Now, fucking give me a little slack here, for the love of God. Welcome back to Yakov Can't Read This Shit. I'm not even going to bother trying any of that again. The Thami and Tamang Banjakri from the Dolaka district are discussed by Miller, from Tamang residing in Kathmandu by Skaft, and in Boda, just a few miles from Kathmandu, by Peters. The Yeti is not a missing link, as some early anthropologically minded persons believed, but the primary character in a vast oral tradition about becoming a shaman, something I have encountered repeatedly over 20 years of investigating shamanism in Nepal. My dissertation and subsequent book studies Gajendra, a Tamang shaman, who is considered a Banjakri initiate due to his calling at the age of 13. Since that time, I have heard many other stories about the initiatory encounters of future shamans with Banjakri. These personal accounts come from individuals from various Nepali ethnic groups, including Tamang, Helembu, Magar, Gurung, as well as from Hindu sweeper and tailoring castes. Despite cultural differences and personal embellishments, their stories are virtually the same. This article is an attempt to integrate this ethnographic material on the Banjakri with previously published accounts and discuss the relevance of the Yeti to this pan-Nepali paradigmatic mythos of the shamanic calling. Okay, it's a mouthful. Gotta burn more incense. That'll get my mind where it needs to be for this. The Yeti. The Yeti is very popular in Nepal. Royal Nepal Airways boasts of its Yeti service, and its main office features a Yeti statue. One of Nepal's few 5-star hotels is the Yak and Yeti. The Yeti has been the topic of much discussion, and numerous expeditions have been launched to discover one, including one by Sir Edmund Hillary. Many sightings have been reported, yet no photographs exist, only highly suspect artifacts and footprints. A plethora of literature both supports and debunks these finds. Most lay Nepalese believe in Yeti, but say they are rare, almost extinct nowadays, as a result of human aggression. Yeah, the Yeti's interesting in that, like, there's no GIF I could put on screen of a Yeti sighting. It's pretty easy to do that with Bigfoot. There are very, very few encounters with Yetis. You can kind of find them with, like the Russian Almasty, or maybe even like the Chinese Yeren, which arguably you could say is the same thing. But there's like nothing about the Yeti. All you find is like footprints. You can find that stuff. Videos. There's like a famous video of like someone from like the Indian Army finding footprints of the Yeti. The term Yeti is attributed to diverse linguistic sources. In Tibetan, Yeti, or Nete, is a bear that stands erect. The Tibetans also call it Mete, which means bear man. It may also be derived from the Tibetan Yeteb, meaning man of the high snow mountains. The Tibetans sometimes call it Mito, unwashed Kagini, snowman. So Mito Kagini, meaning unwashed snowman, which was translated by Newman in 1921 as abominable snowman. According to the Sherpa, the term comes from Ya, rock, and Te, man, thus rock man, or cliff dweller. And once again, the subject of like rocks and caves, and this is in the Himalayas. So it's the same thing in Fae and sometimes Missing 411 mythos about how it's like boulder fields, the men of the rocks, I guess. However, Norbu says that Yeti is not originally a Tibetan word. Some believe it derives from the Sanskrit yaksha, a being of superhuman strength, with thick hair covering their body. It is half human and half beast, with both a wild nature and intelligence. Another view is that Yeti is derived from Yati, a Hindu hermit who retreats from the world and into the forests and caves, living without fire, protection, or human comforts in pursuit of emancipation from worldly bondage. That reminds me of a passage that I read in Agora. I was at the very end of the first book, where he says that he is taken in by some yoginis that lived in caves at the feet of some mountains, and he didn't want to describe the form they took. And it reminds me very much of what it says here about like the yakshas or the yatis, these holy creatures of Eastern faiths who live in the mountains. And it's interesting, this will go more into like the male and the female aspects of this being. In Agora, he specifically says they were female, which may or may not be significant. There is also a long list of appellations for the Yeti. In Nepal, he is sometimes known as Maha Longor, or Great Monkey, and one of the important traditional abodes of the Yeti in Nepal is Maha Longor Hernal. This aligns the Yeti with the revered monkey god and king of the monkeys Hanuman, who, like many descriptions of the Yeti, is also represented as half human and half monkey. Hanuman is endowed with magical powers and can change his shape and fly like the shaman. The Lepchas of Sikkim call them Chu Mung, spirit of the glacier, or it says Ten Mung. I don't know if that's something weird in the translation of the PDF or whatever, but mountain spirit. To them, the Yeti is the lord of all mountain and forest animals, especially the deer, and is thought to be a god of the hunt. In India, he is called Van Manus. In Nepal, Manche, I don't know. Both of which mean forest man and carry the connotation of wild man. He is known in Tibet as Rime, forest dweller, Mi Shornpo, strong man, Mi Chenpo, great man, or Mi God, wild man, untamed, and is therefore an apt symbol, according to Samuels, for the shamanistic aspects of Tibetan culture and religion, which he sharply contrasts to the tame, clerical, monastic ethos. The smallest and fastest Yeti is named Rangshin Bambo, literally self-generated shaman, by Tibetan tribal groups like the Sherpa and Tamang. And in Nepali, he is called Ban Jhakri. The term Bambo means shaman, as does Jhakri in Nepali. And these Yeti are often thought to have mystical powers. The origins of the Yeti are told in various legends. In one Sherpa legend, they are the offspring of a Tibetan girl and a large ape, thereby hovering, so to speak, between human and animal worlds. That almost brings, like Nephilim vibes to mind. They are spirits that magically materialize from a fragment of bone. In another legend, they are living forms taken by the souls of the dead. Souls of the dead, the living dead. Okay. Hindu sources identify them as spirits or descendants from the sun. The sun is one symbol for the highest realized consciousness in Hinduism. They are thought to be the loyal followers of Shiva, Mahadev, the lord of yogins, and that's, once again, the term was yogini, which is like the female yogi, but like now it's saying that the Yeti is the lord of the yoginis, of the yogis. Lord of animals, bestower of wisdom, world creator and destroyer. Oh, it's Shiva, my bad. I'm getting confused here. Yeah, Shiva is the lord of the yogins, because he is the world creator and destroyer, and major divinity of Nepalese Hindus and many lay Buddhists. In Tibetan Buddhist lore, Yeti are sometimes seen as guardian spirits, protectors of the Dharma, and associated with Chen Rizi, the god of mercy and compassion. Yeti are said to venerate Shiva's yellow-clothed sadhu mendicant renunciates. So the Yeti venerates the yogis. Thus, the Yeti is both creature and spirit, Buddhist and Hindu, and is believed in by various ethnic groups in Nepal. There are 3 types of Yeti identified. The first is called Nyalmo. It is huge, 15 feet tall, dangerous, and carnivorous. It is bear-like and preys on yak and other large horned animals by catching them by the horns and twisting their necks, which is exactly how they say Bigfoot kills deer. They are said to be man-eaters and will kill in order to eat human brains. The females are biggest and lead the group. They are reported to capture humans and mate with them. Nyal are listed by Nebeski Wojkowitz as originally mountain divinities of the old Bon shamanistic religion. Mo is a female suffix in Tibetan, female mountain divinity. The second type of Yeti is the Chuti, standing about 8 feet tall and both vegetarian and carnivorous. The Chuti live at altitudes between 8 to 10,000 feet below that of the Nyalmo. Like the Nyalmo, their hands are larger than their feet, and they are black and hairy with short necks. Rangshinbambo, or Ban I can't say this shit. I want to say Jhakri, but that looks like an I. I feel like there's errors in the text coming from translating it to a PDF or whatever. Rangshinbambo, or the Ban-i-Jhakri, are the third type, and as noted earlier, stand only 3 to 5 feet tall. They have red or golden hair covering their bodies. Some believe these Yeti live in the forests at the lowest altitudes and are typically vegetarians. They are sometimes reported coming into villages to take grain, flour, and milk. Rangshinbambo walk upright and are only infrequently quadrupedal. They can be dangerous, but will only attack if provoked. The discrepancies in height reported may be because of different types of Yeti live at different altitudes, although others suggest that all types live at high altitudes in summer and low ones in winter when food resources diminish in the high Himalayas. So 3 to 5 feet tall. That brings to mind things like the orang pendek of, I think, Indonesia or Malaysia or one of those. Aside from differences in height, most observers are in general agreement about what the Yeti looks like. Its head is conical or egg-shaped, eyes deeply sunken, with red, wrinkled, flat faces like an orangutan, although the Nyalmo, as mentioned earlier, are said to be black and bear-like. The hair of the males is long and covers the eyes. A full beard covers the rest of the face. All Yeti have long arms, thick shoulders, and short legs. They have no tail. The Sherpa consider them dangerous, believing that even looking at them can bring bad luck, illness, coma, or even death. They are nocturnal and can see perfectly at night. They also have long ears and correspondingly acute hearing. Feet turn inwards, toes point backwards. It is said they are considered less than human, but more than ape, and live in Himalayan caves and in the jungles. They do not wear clothing, have neither tools nor weapons, do not use fire, eat their food cold and raw, and are afraid of fire and the smell of gunpowder. They roar like a tiger, produce a bark resembling a cough, and a softer coo, coo, coo. Except for the larger Nyalmo, who are matriarchal, Yeti live in patriarchal families. One report suggests that they have 2 eyes in the back, in back as well as 2 eyes in front of their heads, and a small horn in the middle of their forehead. So a lot of that definitely coincides with what they say about Bigfoot. They say it's nocturnal. And they often say it's specifically nocturnal because of its conflict with humans, which have turned it nocturnal, because there's evidence that like certain chimp species have done that. What's interesting is the feet turned inwards and the toes that point backwards, which, as silly as that sounds, is very common in these sorts of reports, specifically about the orang pendek, but you hear it a lot in like little people myths all over the world. So that's another, I guess, Fae tie-in almost. I'm okay. I can do this. Female Yeti have large breasts hanging down below their abdomens, which they will sling over their nape when they rest and carry in their hands when they run. Lore suggests that the best way to escape from a Yeti is to run downhill. The hair of the male Yeti blocks his vision. The female will lose her balance running downhill, holding her large breasts in front of her. Their lair stinks, and their bodies reek heavily of garlic. Yet they are amorous, and there are numerous reports of matings between humans and Yeti, even mixed Yeti and human families. The female is dangerous, and there are myths of her rage. In one, a female Yeti bears a child fathered by a captured human. When he escapes, she kills the child and eats its brain, which bigger Yeti are said to desire. Their intelligence is thought to be less than human, yet Yeti seem capable of experiencing the full range of human emotions, including love for a human spouse, human friend, and their own children. They cry when their feelings are hurt, and there is one legend about a Yeti suicide due to loss of family, another about a Yeti suicide in anticipation of being killed by a human hunter. Another tells a story about a Yeti who saves a human life. They have a taste for alcohol, which, according to myth, has contributed to their demise. In relation to humans, their behavior is imitative of what they see, and men have used this tendency against the Yeti, again contributing to their near extinction. So the alcohol thing, that reminds me almost of like the American Indian. Which, that's another thing, if you're looking into like Paulides, he'll say that if you took all of the hair off a Bigfoot, it would look just like a Native American man, which, that sounds kind of stupid to me, but I feel like it's worth stating. In addition to the larger animals they hunt, Yeti eat a frog-like creature known as mufala that grows very large in the Himalayas. The local population also eats this animal, and there are stories of frequent encounters at the rocky places where these frogs are abundant. Once again, it's the rocky locations. They also eat at a salty moss growing on rocks in the moraine fields. Yeti are also said to raid granaries and gardens, eating potatoes and vegetables fresh from the earth. Further, they will sometimes eat with the backs of their hands. The Yeti's meat is considered to be a cure for gallstones, jaundice, and mental illness, according to an 18th century Tibetan medical text. They have a lifespan of more than 300 years. Bon shamans believe their blood to be highly effective, let's just say that, in pacifying or engaging the help of aggressive spirits. Yeti are thought to have spiritual abilities like ESP and can see and hear at long distances. They do divination by inspecting the heart of a recently killed animal, just as human shamans do. They have been sighted doing community rituals after a hunting kill and during the full moon. They shapeshift at will, assuming guises ranging from the big and monstrous to smaller than the human hand. They can also become invisible. One tale says their size increases as the day gets later, until they are huge at night. They are believed to follow the hidden course of the Earth's magnetic fields, or ley lines, a practice which may be cross-cultural among tribal hunter and gathering people, found in animals and albeit much less frequently among urban dwellers. That's one thing that throws me off. Once you say that a being can shapeshift, like, what the fuck is it? What's its actual form? That's always the next question for me. Do you know how Paulides came to that conclusion? What conclusion are you talking about? About his Bigfoot conclusion? He's never stated it. He's never been open about it being Bigfoot, but the amount of material he's done about Bigfoot prior to releasing Missing 411, it has to be Bigfoot, or something related to Bigfoot, according to Paulides. Yeti are sacred beings. They are feared and dangerous. Children are especially afraid, as the Yeti is a sort of boogeyman, utilized by parents as a threat. Don't do this, or the Yeti will take you. The children hear stories about victims who never return, while others who are fortunate enough to escape return unkept, unclothed, walking on all fours, have forgotten language, behave insanely or like an animal, or tell harrowing stories of their capture, imprisonment, sexual seduction, and escape. Which that sounds like the missing 401 cases. The band Jhakri, who kidnaps young people in order to initiate them into shamanism, is not generally considered a Yeti in either the literature or on the Yeti or on that about the band Jhakri initiation. However, as has already been established, they have the same name, as does the shaman who is so initiated. Thus, there is some inevitable semantic confusion, and when necessary for clarification, I'm going to call them band Jhakri Yeti and band Jhakri Teacher and band Jhakri Shaman. I believe that the first two are the same, in the band Jhakri Yeti and the band Jhakri Teacher. They are spirit and prototype master shaman. The third is obviously the human shaman. The semantic difficulty is further complicated by physical and mental similarities. I recorded stories in which the small band Jhakri Yeti and the band Jhakri Teacher were so close in the minds of the storytellers that they were easily interchanged. In one account, the band Jhakri Teacher was the protagonist. In another telling of the exact same story by another person, it was the band Jhakri Yeti that assumed the central character role. The band Jhakri Teacher, like the band Jhakri Yeti, is a forest and cave dweller. Both are considered band manchi, or wild men, and also spirits and deities. Both have conical heads and hair covering every part of their bodies except hands and face. Both are unclad and demand their abductees to be naked. Band Jhakri Teachers are small, 3 to 5 feet tall, always male, and have big ears. When seated, their tangled hair completely covers their bodies. Extraordinarily, long hair is also a feature of the ancient Tibetan black Bon shamans. Wives of the band Jhakri Teachers, the band Jhakrini, are ferocious, bigger than the males, with long breasts slung over their napes, like the female Nyalmo Yeti, the big matriarchal Yeti. Further, the band Jhakrini is often called Nyamo. Band Jhakri Teachers are further similar to Yeti in that their feet turn inwards and backwards, and they sometimes eat with the backs of their hands. Also, they are nocturnal, see well at night, have the ability to shapeshift into anything, can make themselves invisible, and always capture their candidates or victims after sundown. Like the Yeti, they are not human but possess many human attributes. Live for more than 300 years, are loyal servants of Shiva, and have amorous propensities towards humans. Band Jhakri Teachers are said to have taken female humans as mates and have half-human offspring, some of whom become shamans with psychic abilities. I have not found this to be true of the female Nyalmo and the children of her captive husbands. The band Jhakri Teachers dress in white frocks with peacock feather headdresses when on pilgrimage, as shamans do on pilgrimage, and beat small golden shaman drums or golden plates, which they teach to their initiates so they may invoke them in the future. These latter features are not mentioned for the band Jhakri Yeti. The Nyalmo Yeti physically cares for her captives if they are submissive, turning them into dependent reproductive prisoners. But, as mentioned earlier, if they don't accept their fate, they are killed or must risk a dangerous escape. However, the band Jhakri Teacher instructs the youths they abduct, returning them unscathed if they are deemed worthy. Dependent reproductive prisoners. Press 1 in chat if that's a good thing, 2 if that's a bad thing. Bigfoot Mommy GF. Those who the band Jhakri Teacher considers imperfect suffer a different fate, as in the case of Giri, a 40-year-old Temang female I met in Boda. She relates that one evening, when she was 7 years old, she was walking in the forest with her father at dusk. When he wasn't looking, a band Jhakri grabbed her from behind some trees and thickets. She was taken through a forest to his cave, where he took her clothes from her and had sex with her. Afterwards, when inspecting her body, he discovered she had a slight scar on her face, an imperfection, and immediately threw her out of the cave. However, because they were married, he has not left her spiritually and has caused her to shake uncontrollably since she was a child. During the one day she spent with the band Jhakri Teacher, She learns some healing mantra, but she does not know how to keep the Jhakri teacher in its proper place, to tame it, so that it does not come to her involuntarily and make her shake out of control, which causes her distress. Thus, she has not been able to become a shaman. Many years ago, she found a guru, but this guru could not help her, for he himself did not know how to please the Jhakri and make offerings to it of flour and grain. The Jhakri teacher never takes a sacrifice of living things, which is true of all deities. Only the lower spirits are fed blood, according to Ama Bamba, Mother Shaman, a master Temang shaman. Giri has now become a disciple shaman to Ama Bamba, who will teach her how to please the Jhakri to stop him from attacking her, and give her the proper mantra to invoke the Jhakri when she needs him. So, once again, that's a David Paulides story right there. When you're grabbed, you're with, a family member out in the woods. You're grabbed from behind a tree, a thicket. You disappear forever. Giri is a very interesting example, as there are only a few accounts of girls being taken by the Jhakri in order to be taught. In fact, nearly all shamans deny that it happens. Ama Bambo, I hope I'm saying that right. Giri's guru told me only 3 months before she met Giri that girls were never taken captive by the Jhakri and taught to be Jhakri. It seems to be that belief is changing to keep pace with social change for women in Nepal. Holy shit! Bhakta Bahadur, a Temang man of 30 years from a small village near Buddha, was also taken as a 7-year-old child and kept for 1 day. The Jhakri tried to teach him mantra, but he could not focus and memorize them. Thus the Jhakri got angry and threw him out. Bhakta Bahadur literally flew out of the cave and hit a huge rock, which seriously slashed his lip. He had to spend days in the hospital and still wears the scar, not only of the physical wound, but of the traumatic encounter with the Jhakri teacher, who possesses him to this day, makes him shake. Because Bhakta Bahadur is not a healer, most people, including his wife, believe that he is crazy. Currently, he is being initiated and treated for this Jhakri illness by Ama Bambo, who has been embodied by this particular Jhakri teacher in ritual, who told Bhakta Bahadur and others present that Ama Bambo was to teach him those very mantra he did not learn as a child and train him to become a shaman, which he is capable of becoming since he has a pure heart. I would like to know more about this Ama Bambo character. It could so easily just be like some grifter in a village, but I don't want to believe that. I need everybody to raise your hands up to the screen and give me your strength so that I stop fucking words up. I thought this was going to be easier than Agora. It's not. It's harder. Give me your strength. If your parents are in the house, go tell them Yakov needs your strength to finish reading the shit. I spoke to other shamans who were thrown by the Jhakri after only 1 day because of some defect. One because he passed gas, another because he became ill and fainted at the time of their kidnappings. Currently, these men, one of Taylor caste and the other a Temang, function as shamans in their communities. The Jhakri teacher still embodies these shamans, but in a more controlled trance-possession state than Bhakta Bahur and Giri, who are still initiates. And while it is true that these practicing shamans call themselves Jhakri shamans, none of them are initiates of the Jhakri. They say the Jhakri did not complete them. They were thrown before finishing the entire experiential process as told in the mythos. The idea of possession is very interesting too. Now that's not normal to Bigfoot stories. It's in some, but it's definitely not the standard. However, I think it is fairly standard with Fae ideas. You almost have like the flavor of the changeling there, like the child is taken and then returned, but it's like defective now. Most agree that the ideal length of time to stay with the Jhakri teacher is 30 days. Also, the maximum time to learn what is being taught. Any more time risks inevitable capture by the Jhakrini and is superfluous, according to Amabambo. Reports in the literature vary. Some shamans speak of 3, 5, 7, or 9-day ordeals. Others speak in terms of years. Gajendra, a Temang shaman, spent 7 days with the Jhakri teacher who abducted him when he was 13. The Jhakri made him quote-unquote crazy and shake, possessed him, and called him to the forest where he lived with him for a week naked and was instructed by the Jhakri to eat red earthworms off the backs of his hands, under threat of decapitation by the Jhakrini, a tall, fat, black, furry beast who whipped his hands and threatened him with a curved sword of gold if he did not do precisely what he was taught by the Jhakri. The Jhakri, who was small, with a golden conical head and pointed cap, gave him special initiations and a mantra that enabled him to master fire and heat, passing tests of placing his hands in boiling oil or sitting in a bed of live coals. When he was released into the forest at night, he was chased by the Jhakrini and narrowly won the foot race by descending a hill, as the Jhakri had warned he might need to do so in order to escape. Still, the Jhakrini chased him into a cemetery, where he was attacked by evil ghosts of various types and finally saved by the clear light of a divinity. Ram Ali, a young man in his 20s, a Magar Jhakri shaman from the Pokhara area of Nepal, was taken when he was 9 years old. Prior to this, he had dreams, and the Jhakri teacher came to him and said, "I will take you someday and teach and make you a shaman." When he was finally taken, it was by surprise. He was picking some fruit when the Jhakri teacher came and said, "So you've come to me to eat." Giving Ram a few fruits to eat, which instantly put Ram into a dream or non-ordinary reality, although Ram said the fruit was not a psychedelic. Once again, fairy mythos. You don't eat the food at fairyland or you're stuck there forever, is what they say. Ram relates that the wind began to blow, like a tornado, and there was a big storm accompanied by an earthquake. The Jhakri teacher took him to his cave. Ram says he spent 4 years with the Jhakri and his wife, whom Ram called the Bear Woman. Other shamans deny that 4 years is true, but Ram says he never wanted to leave. It was a fabulous and golden cave. He could see everything and wanted for nothing, but he says it is imagination and like a dream. While there, he ate red worms with the backs of his hands, under the threat of being killed and cannibalized by the golden, kukri-wielding Jhakrini. Ram describes the Jhakri teacher as 5 feet tall, golden, hairy, looking like a monkey, but able to shapeshift at will. He has long white hair, with a pointed cap made of gold and diamonds. The Jhakri teacher taught Ram many shamanic techniques, and then returned him as he had found him, unscarred, to the place where he had first abducted him. The Jhakri still appears to him in his dreams and instructs him. Before conducting shamanic healings, Ram invokes the Jhakri, who is his chief teaching spirit. So, like someone said in chat previously, a lot of this sounds like the story where a kid was abducted and taken to a cave where there was a bunch of weird stuff on the walls, there were old-timey relics, and then he was eventually abducted by the cave by like an angry robot grandma, something that was shape-shifting into his grandmother. So you have ideas of that in there. There's also appearing in dreams. You could relate that. There's a few, most notably the Ape Canyon Bigfoot encounter. Like, that guy was told to go there in a dream. And that's what they leave out about a lot of these, the most famous reports of Bigfoot, is that there's like these esoteric elements. And the people who want you to think Bigfoot is just a monkey, they never bring this up. Like, Patterson had visions of the Bigfoot before he actually saw it. So if you believe in the Patterson footage, like, he drew that very scene before it ever happened, which you could say it just makes it a hoax, but I don't know. I don't know about that. Like I said, the same thing in Ape Canyon, where a prospector is told to go to that place, I think by like a lake spirit in the dream, and they got there, and then they were suddenly attacked by aggressive ape men. Unlike the Yeti, who does not have a spoken language, the Jhakri teacher communicates telepathically as well as through a secret language. Kailash Surendra, a Megar shaman, was 8 years old and tending his family's cows when he was unexpectedly taken from behind the animal's shed by a Suna Jhakri, a golden Jhakri, and taken to his temple in the forest. He was kept by the Jhakri for 4 weeks, but returned once each week to the place where he had originally been kidnapped, and then taken again on the next evening. However, when Kailash was at home, he was invisible, and the villagers could not see him. He saw them, but was unable to speak to them. Kailash communicated with the Jhakri in their secret language, which he could understand. He says, due to becoming embodied by Sarasvati, the Hindu goddess of wisdom, while he was with the Jhakri teacher. I think fairy stories also have elements of that, where people, they see people they know, and sometimes they're like in places they know, but they're just on a different wavelength, and they can't interact. Bel Bahadur, Kailash's brother and also a shaman, described the Jhakri teacher as having power objects. He had thunderstones and golden drums with which he taught Bel to play. He keeps a porcupine as a pet, who shoots his quills at him so that he might practice blocking the quote-unquote arrows sent by evil sorcerers and spirits, something he also teaches to his candidates. Other Jhakri shamans showed me a thunderbolt hurling slingshot, cool, a small bow that sends fire arrows which can destroy an enemy's brain, and a ball of string with which they ensnare enemies. Kailash did not discuss his abduction in depth in our single interview, but mentioned that the Jhakri's wife was a dangerous Devi, or forest goddess, who hunts animals, devours human flesh, and causes all sorts of problems for hunters. After the abduction and teachings, the candidates typically take the Jhakri as their Mukhya guru, or chief tutelary spirit. The Jhakri continues to teach them in dreams and to embody and instruct them during ritual. The candidates, when they become shamans, light a special candle for the Jhakri before doing ritual, burn coals for him with incense, and invoke his spirit with the drumbeat he taught them. Those Jhakri shamans who are taught by the Jhakri teachers are considered to be Rang Shin Tugba. As already mentioned, Rang Shin means self-generated in Tibetan, arising on its own accord from its very nature, of itself, by itself, and involuntarily. Rang Shin is the Tibetan name for the third type of Yeti, the Jhakri Yeti. Tugpa means tutelary or teaching spirit, so that the phrase can be literally translated as spontaneously arising tutelary spirit. What this means is that a Rang Shin is a category of Yeti, a category of shaman, the small Jhakri teacher, as well as a chief shamanic teaching spirit, an inner guru, said to appear spontaneously, or as the Nepalese say, af, automatically. Thus, all Jhakri shamans are af shamans, spontaneously arising shamans, called or chosen by the Jhakri. But all Rang Shin Bambo or af shamans are not Jhakri. Amma Bambo was chosen, attacked as they say, by her father's spirit, af, and not by a Jhakri. Thus she does not claim to be a Jhakri. Still, because she is embodied by her father, who was a Jhakri, she knows his memories and experiences, af. All her teaching occurred in dreams and visions, direct from the spirits, af. She had no human guru. Af also has the connotation of not being learned or produced through human intention or effort. Amabambo says that, during the Golden Age, all shamans were af or Rang Shin. Nowadays, however, during this Kali Yuga, or Dark Age, the connection to heaven is veiled, and most shamans have to learn from each other. Amabamba believes, it says Amabamba here, Amabambo here, and I don't know which is the right one. Amabambo, we'll go with that, believes, as do most Nepali shamans, that mantra or teachings that arise spontaneously, given in a dream, af, are much more powerful than those learned from other shamans. I believe that totally af shamans who have no guru, like Amabambo, are very rare, but this requires more study and is not the major topic of this paper. Amabambo says that the scarcity of af shamans indicates that shamans are becoming less powerful. There are some very powerful calling experiences that do not involve the Jhakri teacher. Still, the Jhakri shaman, those abducted and taught, are typically considered to be the most powerful type of shamans. They are prototypical models for becoming a shaman in Nepal and, so to speak, a mark of distinction and an epithet of supernatural potency and unofficial status. It is in the dangerous passage aspect of this initiatory scenario with the Jhakri teacher that the figure of the Yeti wife clearly emerges. Both Gajendra, my Tamang teacher, and Ram Ali, a Jhakri shaman mentioned earlier, knew that to escape her threats to devour them, they needed to run downhill. In the minds of these shamans, there was little difference between the Jhakrini and the large female Nyalmo Yeti. She is more of a dark figure with black hair, he with a golden aura. She is violent and rageful. He is a teacher of shamanic rituals. Yet without her, the passage would be less dangerous and therefore less profound. She is said to leave the cave every evening, and unlike Is that 55? Don't sound right. Alright. She is said to leave the cave every evening, and unlike deities, Lagu are fed on blood, chickens, and goats are fine, but the powerful Bakshi need to offer them human blood and are thus killers. The Chada, on the other hand, feeds these spirits blood taken from his fingers when he plays with them. The Chota, by disposition, is not a murderer. Thus the battle of good versus evil has been projected onto the plane of the war of the sexes. I don't know how that linked with what I was just reading, and it feels like I'm reading the wrong thing immediately, but the pages seem right. The Jhakri teacher is the god of shamans. There's no spaces in that whole line. Numerous informants attest that the Jhakrini is the goddess of the Bakshal. Her name Nyalmo Yeti. Her Nyalmo Yeti origin connects her with the man-eating boogeyman stories told to children. She is a beast, a bear, and provokes fear, demanding pieces of the flesh and the lives of the pure child disciples her husband abducts. In her and her husband's golden cave, her husband teaches future shamans the techniques to combat her, how to become invisible, chase bad spirits away by mastering fire, to invoke the Jhakri teacher himself and other spirits for protection, to shapeshift and fly, and to utilize some of the Jhakri's arsenal of spiritual weapons. She is the driving force behind all this learning and teaching. The dark background. He is a spirit descended from the sun. Without her, he would be without either definition or purpose. Where was I? The calling and the training. The initial process of being kidnapped or taken is said to be the same thing as a possession by the Jhakri teacher who thereby attacks the candidate. This is the calling, and it is a spontaneous election, an af experience, but it is often difficult to tell the difference between this creative illness and its pathological experience. In this context, it is much more difficult for a woman. Her symptoms are often recognized as a spirit illness and not as a calling. It took Amabambo, mother shaman, 9 years of experiencing the shaking, which is the sign of possession, to finally begin developing a relationship with her Mukhya guru, her deceased father, a practiced shaman. The doctors thought she was crazy. Everyone in her family, lamas and other shamans, thought she was beset by evil spirits. Basically, because she is a lady, they did not believe that her father, a once famous and powerful shaman, would come to her. Thus she had to master herself without the aid of a shaman guru. All of her training, both didactic and ecstatic, came, as indicated earlier, automatically, rang shin or af. But, as stated above, this is rare. For nearly all who are chosen, Jhakri or not, must find a shaman guru. Gajendra served an apprenticeship for 9 years in which, as he explained it, He enhanced his relationship with all his spirits through a sort of on-the-job training at healing rituals. Guru Puja, which are rituals involving drumming and calling one's Mukhya Guru to possess them and speak through them. Through a series of pilgrimage initiations in order to acquire Sola, power from Shiva. When the Shaman Guru takes his disciples on pilgrimages to Shiva shrines in the forests and mountains on important full moon festivals, they are on a quest to receive Shiva's Shakti. Sakti, I'm assuming that's the same thing as Shakti in Agora. They're repeating a Hinduized version of the Jhakri origin myth, which relates how Shiva endowed his Shakti on the first shaman in the Golden Age, the Jhakri, so that he could bring candidates to the forest and there teach them to be healers. During these pilgrimage initiations, Guru Puja, and on-the-job training, the Jhakri neophyte improves on his initial initiatory experience. By playing the drum, first taught by the Jhakri teacher, he becomes proficient at invoking the Jhakri to be of aid in the context of a healing ritual, the performance of which is the shaman's major social function. Healing rituals are themselves endeavors to defeat the Lagu and Bakshi, who are attacking and possessing the patients, and thereby making them ill. It is believed that the symptoms and illness suffered by the patients are the result of being consumed by Bakshi and Lagu, which is what the Jhakri threatened to do to the young initiates. The healing rituals the shaman perform communicate cultural values, for it is said that Bakshi attack through conniving to trick and thereby spoil others. The shamans conquer evil by naming it. The cause of trouble, the sorcery based on malevolent intent, is revealed for all to see and then sent away to its proper place, ritually blocked from returning to the patient to cause more damage. In the reports described above and numerous others I collected of those of Jhakri shamans who were kept for a day or less, the Jhakrini did not appear. In our examples, those who were kept for a longer period had the full experience and learned how to combat her, becoming apprentice shamans or shamans soon after. Most of the others battled with the Jhakri illness of shaking and or accusations of being insane until they found a guru to teach them. Some are only beginning to learn the trade now, decades later. It is the complete mythos that is experienced by the young candidate that makes Jhakri shamans. Without the Jhakrini, the Jhakri initiatory encounter is one that has been aborted because of some impurity or impropriety of the candidates. As noted above, the shamans themselves recognize these brief encounters as being incomplete. Those kept for only a day are thrown, and others are taught to master the queen of the Bakshi by the god of the shamans, and then typically returned. And this is kind of irrelevant to what I'm reading right now, but it's something that came into my mind. There are stories about children going missing in the wilderness, and they're saved by like a nice bear, the kind bear that came to their rescue and fed them berries or kept them warm, kept them sheltered, kept them fed. And here you have the Nyalmo Yeti, who's described as like the bear woman, the ferocious bear woman. The defining characteristics of the Bakshi is that she goes against the socially appropriate, abrogating fundamental values. For the Bakshi, as we have seen, there are no rules, no love. The most powerful commit the worst crimes in order to acquire that power. They are antagonistic to the good and to life. This spiritual evil is often symbolized by the mythopoetic imagination of Nepal as characters who have their feet turned backwards. For example, the Kikakani, a Lagu-type spirit and Bakshi, is described as hideously ugly, with feet that are turned backward, but able to shapeshift into a beautiful phantom who seduces and eventually kills her male victims by draining their energy during intercourse. Kikakani walk backwards to hide their identifying characteristic. Each night, she appears to the unsuspecting man until he finally wastes away. When the Jhakrini discovers her husband's candidate is there in their cave, she wants to cut him and attempt to give the hungry youth food. However, if he takes it with the palms of his hands and not the backs of his hands, she has tricked him and will cut him. The Jhakri teacher teaches his candidates to eat with the backs of their hands in order to dispel the attack of the Jhakrini. When shamans do healings for disorders in which bakshi are implicated, their patients are advised to bring in food, which the shaman first blows healing mantra into before he has them eat from both the front and the back of their hands. This ritual act is called wito, right way, when the right palm is facing up, and solto, wrong, opposite, or contrary way, when the right palm is facing down. These simple ritual gestures are culturally believed to have far-reaching cosmic implications, as the two sides of the hand, by analogy, are recognized to be the same as positive-negative poles, day-night, visible-invisible, good-evil, male-female, etc. When shamans do alto-solto, they direct their patients first to do alto to counteract the poison that the victims of the bakshi attack, the patient, unwittingly ate with no evil intent in the proper manner, palm up. Then, with the back of their hand, they eat to get rid of the lagu, who have attacked them from the hidden backside, imbued with a more powerful shamanic mantra than the one given by the bakshi to the lagu that caused the patient's illness. In a certain sense, the alto part of the rite treats the effects or symptoms. The solto part treats the cause of the patient's problems, the agents of affliction, bakshi and lagu. According to Amabambo, the mantra she puts into food is one of fire that burns, poisons, and frightens the lagu, causing them to flee for their lives and consequently staving off the bakshi attack. If patients do not eat with the backsides, the bakshi and lagu attack them from this clandestine and unseen side that cannot be dispelled, and the patient slowly dies. So it's just talking about parasitic attacks now. I feel like something's missing in this document, but I'd rather not know. As mentioned earlier, the peculiar characteristic of backwards or inwards pointed feet is also attributed to the Nyalmo, or Banjakrini Yeti, as well as the Banjakri teacher. The former, as we have seen, is large, dark, female, carnivorous, man-eating. The latter, small, golden, male, vegetarian. One is highly dangerous, the other a teacher. One is a spirit associated with illness, and the other a tutelary healing spirit. One closely resembles a bear, and the other is ape-like. Yet they both kidnap their victims and take them away from society and family. They are naked and sometimes eat uncooked food with the backs of their hands. They both have something golden too. He a golden nimbus-like cone head, and she a golden kukri, which is the curved sword. How we hellbent in the chat? In the chat, what up? 315 in the chat, what up? AJ in the chat, what up? All right. They are clearly distinct, yet the same. Both are alto-solto. Both embody a trait of the other and share in the other's darkness and light, like the yin-yang Tao. One is reminded of the universal theme of the mystical union, the sacred marriage of opposites. They are two, but in essence one, an apparent paradox, but at a deep level, two necessary parts of the same process, the process of initiation, which is exactly what Vimalananda talks about. We just read the first part where we went through the introduction to the second book of Agora, Kundalini. And on the cover, you have Shiva and Shakti, half of each face connected as one. And it's that distinction which is like true understanding, true enlightenment. The Banjakri myth tells of a confrontation with the unconscious, which, as Jung said, is where the gold of the psyche is mixed with shadow, where the best and worst is seen to somehow live together for better or worse and work together as necessary complements. In Jungian psychology, it is this confrontation with the shadow that is the necessary beginning of the individuation process. Which I think some of that material we just went through in Agora too. At bottom, the process of initiation is a process of transformation. It requires a death and a rebirth. It is a dangerous passage. A powerful shamanic initiation is akin to a spiritual emergency, which is a critical event and is painful. However, the crisis is necessary. Without it, there is not opportunity for change and growth, which is exactly what Vimalananda said about the Kundalini awakening process. The shamanic initiation, embodied in the tales of the Jhakri shamans, require an encounter with evil, for that is what the heroic shaman must combat. If he does not experience it, overcome his fear, he will not be able to help others who are victimized by it. In it, there must be a confrontation with the Banjakrini, the prototype boogeyman, Bakshi, and a dominant symbol of evil. This confrontation typically occurs in a cave. Caves are the traditional places where Tibetan and Indian yogins and shamans retreat. So again, we're on this cave bit, and people like to bring up the a map of missing people in like national parks and compare it to cave systems in the U.S. So you could say they just fell into a fucking hole in the ground, never to be seen again, or maybe they're taken by the Yeti. Okay, so caves are gufa. I'm confused as fuck by this word, but I get it now. Gufa currently can be any structure that is enclosed and used for an initiation. Numerous types of Nepalese initiations occur in a gufa, cave, or such enclosed structures known as gufa. Like all places of retreat, they are spaces of the betwixt and between or liminal condition of the initiation process, separated and isolated, but yet to be returned. That reminds me of like initiation processes and like Bill Cooper's ideas about like the pyramids, that they were the caves that you enter where you risk your life, and if you're lucky you come out as like the enlightened man. It is the period of a compressed learning where the sakra are revealed. To the Nepalese shaman, these are the mantra and the shamanic tools and paraphernalia of the Banjakri. But the liminal is a time of paradox and the coexistence of opposites. Self-generated transformation, spiritual emergence occurs in times of danger and crisis. Thus, the Banjakrini, her cannibalistic threats and bestial nature, resonate from childhood nightmares of being kidnapped by Yeti and other boogeymen. The shaman needs to master those very same demons in Bakshi to heal his patients, to awaken from their nightmares by using what the Banjakri taught him to do. AJ in the chat, Delta 8 got me bugging. You and me both, brother. The Banjakri are the masters of liminality. They stand at the juncture of two realities, in between categories and boundaries. They are physical and spiritual, human and animal, beings of dream and of reality. They are the masters in a numinous, unbounded space where everything is backwards, opposite, and dangerous. They are the neophytes. They are the neophytes' guides through the dark night before initiatory rebirth. There are hints that, at one point in the ancient past, this mythic scenario may have reflected or been part of a profound shamanic rite of passage. Be this as it may, today it is, as the shamans say, an af-say-af experience. That is, it arises on its own, unbidden and automatically, to those chosen to be shamans by the spirits. It is a spontaneous rite of passage. Indeed, the Yeti and Banjakri are real. They are not just characters in a story told, but realities lived in the soul of the Nepalese shaman. That's it. Little dry, definitely academic, but I think it has clues to other mysteries, other more interesting mysteries, other juicier things. And that's what I like to see. So yeah, I think one more time I'm going to shill my new t-shirt in honor of my actually getting around to reading Agora, reading many things. Reading about the Yeti. I've got another one. It's called Bigfoot and Göbekli. That's what the file is called. I assume it's about Bigfoot's role in building Göbekli Tepe or whatever. I skimmed through it just a tad. And there's a lot of Helena Blavatsky references, a lot of Atlantis stuff. There's a lot of stuff I would like to read. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of shit. Yeah, this is the new Agora merch. The link to the shop can be found in the description. It's the Teespring link. At the left hand of God. Get it while it lasts, I suppose. $19.99. I get $9 out of the deal. Too much to ask? I don't know. Ask Vimal Ananda. His face is on the damn thing. There's also the yoga mat if you want to spend $50 on an Agora yoga mat. It's not my fault. Don't blame me. So yeah, and also the Gathering of the Juggalos stories are up at yakobees.com. Go check that out. I would listen to the Mega Streamcast one where we do all the silly stories, and then we will go into Tape Eaters where it's the more profound stuff. But you should check that out without a doubt. There's some of the fucking coolest stories of my life, the best time of my life. Go to yakobees.com and listen to that stuff. Buy the merch. Do the bit. I'm here for you. I'm here to do the bit. I want to see you here next time, too, liking my videos and all that gay stuff. Thank you very much. I'm getting the hell off of here. Who's in chat? Who actually sat here and listened to all of this? Professor Volts, you're the man. AJ, you're the best. Freefall. Shill the $50 yoga. Just shill the fucking yoga mat. Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you. New boob tube is there. Ah, man.